Jai Hind students, today we are going to study about the chapter of class 10th, chapter number 7, that is control and coordination. In this chapter, while we are studying, you will get to know that this chapter, it revolves around one basic concept, that is respond to stimuli. So when we are going to study this chapter step by step, you will realize that each and every process and concept is related to that only. So let's begin. First of all, what is stimuli? Stimuli is any change in the environment to which living organisms respond, right? And that we call it as stimuli. We all have 5 sensory organs, that we have eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin, through which we usually respond, right? If we get a very bright light, our eyes shrink. We smell flowers and perfumes, as well as if we touch something, then also we feel. So these all are the stimulus. Okay. So now the chapter name itself suggests control and coordination. That means how we are going to coordinate our body. So what is coordination? For a proper response to a stimulus, many organs of the body should work together. It's not a single organ process. The complete body has to work, so it's a coordination of various organs. The working together of various organs in an organism to produce a proper response of a stimulus is called coordination. That means when we touch something or when we feel something to which we respond in any way, that is coordination, and for that the whole body respond in a function in a sequential manner. Now in animals, since animals have a very complex body structure, so to do and to maintain that, we have 2 main systems. One is nervous system, second is endocrine system. They both work simultaneously to do the work. In plants, basically we have plant hormones, which we call it as phytohormones, as well as there are some tropism movement. Just like in animals, there is nervous system and endocrine system. Nervous system is basically work from brain to nerves, and hormones, it's a secretion from the various organs of a body which do the work. In the same manner, in plants there are 2 systems. One is a tropic and anastic system. The second one is again hormone system. Now coordination in animals. As I have told you that there are 2 systems. One is nervous system, second is endocrine system. So first we are going to start with the nervous system. Our nervous system is mainly comprised of 3 things, that is brain, spinal cord and nerves. Before starting how it works, let us understand the few terminology which we are going to use while understanding the functioning of a nervous system. The first term is receptor. What are the receptors? They mainly are the sense organ which receive the stimuli and pass the message to the brain. I have told you when I started the chapter that we have 5 sensory organs. Those organs are responsible for taking the stimuli, but the receptors which are present, they detect that stimuli. So we have different receptors, as I have 5 sensory organs. First is photoreceptors. The name itself suggests photo means light, that means it is a receptor present mainly in eyes. Second is phonoreceptor. Phono means phone, that is sound. Okay. So this is a receptor which is present in our ear. Third is olfactory receptor. It is a receptor which is present in our nose to detect the smell. Fourth is your gustatory receptor. Gustatory receptor, it is present inside our tongue, which is responsible for our taste. And last not the least, that is chemoreceptor, which are present throughout your skin to get and to give the stimulus, the feel factor. The next terminology is effector. What are the effectors? They are the muscle and gland which usually respond. Definitely when we are getting a response, we are getting a stimulus, we will respond. So effectors, these are main muscles and glands which are responsible to provide any response. Next is sensory nerves. the nerves which sense the stimulus. And motor nerves, the motor nerves which are responsible for carrying the message to the effectors so that they can function. So you all can see that each and everything is interrelated and connected. That's why it is one of the coordination. Human nervous system. The human nervous system is itself a complex part, but it is divided into two. If we'll say the basic is a central nervous system which contains the brain, spinal cord and nerves. The second one is a peripheral nervous system which contains mainly your cranial nerves. If you look at this simple figure of a central nervous system, you'll see that there is one brain and a spinal cord. The brain is the part which is a main function. The body function is controlled by your brain, and you'll see that spinal cord is directly connected to it, so that means that every message which has been sent by the brain, it will go through spinal cord definitely. Peripheral nervous system, if you look at it, there are cranial, peripheral, central nerves and automatic nerves. Now they all are related to each other. In short, they are coordinating with each other. Cranial is the one, cranial nerves are the nerves which go from your brain to all these sensory organs, right? Brain, eyes, mouth, ears, etc. Your central nerves are responsible for connecting your brain to the nerves. Peripheral nerves, they go from spinal cord to your arms. And automatic nerves, these are those nerves which will always keep on functioning because they are for those actions which are not under our control, those are involuntary actions. So, if you see from cranial to the autonomic, they all are connected to each other. Nerve cell, one of the very basic part of this chapter, that is your neuron, as it is a structural and functional unit of nervous system. In short, all the messages which have been transferred from brain to your body parts is because of your neuron. Neuron is a main unit of a brain which is responsible for sending signals. Now if you look at it, it has, if you closely look at the structure of the neuron, it starts from a dendrite which is like finger-like projection, and through it there is one attachment. You'll see the direct attachment, that is through going through cell body, containing axon and myelin sheath, then to the node of Renwald. Last, axon terminal, which we called it as nerve endings as well. Now how it works? The main point is that your axon, it's a long nerve fiber responsible for transferring the signal, but it is getting protection from the myelin sheath. Now the junction between two neurons, junction means when the first neuron is connected to the another neuron, there is one gap. That gap is called as synapse. One neuron is connected to another neuron, just as the dendrite of the second neuron is connected to the axon terminal of the first neuron. Similarly, the dendrite of the third neuron is connected to the axon terminal of the second neuron, and so on. So it is a particular chain. Now how it happens, how it works, the messages, they are transferred from the brain in a form of electrical signals through nerve impulses. Your nerve impulses, if we'll say what is nerve impulse, it is simply an electrical signal. Now the brain has sent the signal. The signal in form of electric signal, it will go from dendrite to the axon and then to the axon terminal. Now at the end of axon terminal there is a synapse which we call as gap, and there are neurotransmitters which are present in between both the neurons. At that neurotransmitters, they are responsible for converting that electrical signal into chemical signal, so that that electrical signal can be passed on from one neuron to second neuron easily without any interruption, because the signal has to be sent and it has to be very quick. So you all can imagine how microseconds will take. Structure of neuron, which we have already discussed, it's little bit elaborated form and the clear version. Now the brain, one of the most important part of our body, brain. Now the brain is a most important part of our body. If any other organ, it will stop functioning for a while, we still say the person will be alive, but the brain, if it stops functioning, the person would not be alive. That's why it needs to be protected by a very hard component which is called as skull. Cranium, the another name. We know it as a skull, but it is cranium. It is made up of 8 sheets of a bone and it is really very hard. It is covered by the 3 membranes called meninges, which is filled up with the cerebrospinal fluid. Now why there is a requirement of a cerebrospinal fluid? Because it protects us from the shocks. Now what kind of a shock we are going to get? Sometimes we hit by something very hard or somebody hit us on our head, nothing will happen. Why? Because these lipids which are present, which is called as cerebrospinal fluid, it protects us from all those shock as well as it maintains the fluidity of the meninges. Now your brain is mainly comprises of 3 parts. If I show you the figure, if you'll see, this is a diagram of a brain. Look, it is a little bit complex. If you'll say, there is, first of all, try to understand the structure of a brain. Brain is divided into 3 parts. First is forebrain, second midbrain, third hindbrain. The biggest portion which you'll see in a figure which is of a blue color, that is your forebrain. The another name is cerebrum. When you see the middle part, that is whitish color, and to which below it there is red center part and purplish one, that is your midbrain. Below it, when you'll see the green, complete green portion, that is pons, medulla oblongata and cerebellum, they all are comprising a hindbrain. So what remains we have noticed? The blue one is forebrain, the white and the purple one, that is your midbrain, and when it comes to green part, that is your hindbrain. Now comes to functioning, your forebrain, which was a blue one, cerebrum. It consists of main cerebrum and olfactory receptor. That means if we say the biggest portion of a brain is a thinking part of a brain. All the thinking, your sight, your smell, all the 5 receptors which we have studied, cerebrum is responsible. Whatever you listen, whatever you do, you listen to the music, you feel, you get any signal, you respond. When you listen, you give answer, you see, you reflect. All those main functions will be done by cerebrum. That's why it fills up 70% of your brain part. Comes to midbrain. Now this is brain which is responsible for all the involuntary actions and reflex movements. Head, neck, eyes, most important ones. Now come to hindbrain. Your hindbrain, the green one, right? It comprises of 3: cerebellum, pons, medulla. Now cerebellum is responsible for maintaining the posture and balance of the body. The way you walk, the way you dance, the way you maintain the balance of your body is because of cerebellum. And it is present at the lower portion and very weak and very susceptible to the injury. You might not have noticed, but if you sleep for a longer duration of time and then you suddenly wake up, you'll find little blackout and you'll find little bit difficult to balance your body for first initial minutes. Why? Because your cerebellum, it is also in a semi-sleep, due to which it is not able to maintain the balance. Second one is pons. It controls your respiration, the process of main respiration. Medulla, it controls your heartbeat, blood pressure, swallowing, coughing and sneezing, vomiting. If you see the location of a medulla, it is very near to the rest of the body. That means it is connecting to the optic nerve and all the body parts. Spinal cord, as I've told you, we are done with the brain. Now it's time from a spinal cord. Spinal cord, it starts from a brain and extends to the vertebral column. Vertebral column, which has 31 pairs of spinal nerves beneath the brain. It carries messages to and from the brain to all parts which has to be word. It is mainly responsible for controlling the reflex action, which we are going to study further. Now, what is reflex action? It is a sudden movement. You people must have noticed sometimes what happens when you go to you'll simply standing or something like that. Anything which is come suddenly to you, something ball, you just catch it up and you don't know it was coming initially. If you're hit by something, you react. When there's a strong wind, you close your eyes. And why it happen? The first thing, when a very small baby, the young one, the boy, the infant, when it touches any hot object, he suddenly withdraws the hand. He doesn't even have any idea that it is hot or not. So that's what? That is reflex action. Right? So in this reflex action, the nerves in the skin, which are the receptor, it detects the heat and passes the message through the sensory nerve to the spinal cord. Then the information passes through the motor nerves to the muscles, which are the effector of the hand, and then we withdraw our hand. Let me show you the process. This is a process, the pathway which follows that reflex action, that is the reflex arc. Now have a careful look at this flow chart. Stimulus. Stimulus can be any. It can be the touch, it can be bright light, it can be anything, or very strong sound as well. Receptors, I told you sense organs, it is present inside the 5 types of receptor. Then sensory nerves. From stimulus to the receptor, then the sensory nerves, then to spinal cord. From spinal cord to motor nerves. If you remember, motor nerves, they are responsible for sending signal to effectors, which are mainly muscles and glands, which have to respond. Right? Now do you understand why I told you those definitions before only, so that you can relate. Now it is a really very fast process, just a microsecond it happens, and in this the brain is not directly associated, but yeah, after happening of this, the brain gets the signal. So initially we'll say there is no direct involvement of brain in the reflex action or reflex arc. The clear view. Now coordination in plants. We have done main nervous system. I have told you in animals there are 2. One is nervous system, second one is endocrine system. We are done with the nervous system of the animals. We are left with the endocrine system, which we are going to cover as well. Now in coordination of plants, I have told you there are 2 systems. One is a plant hormone system, second one is a tropism and nastic. So let's do the plant hormone system, which is very simple and basic. There are mainly 5 types of a hormone present. One is auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin, abscisic acid and ethylene. Now these 5 hormones, definitely they are for the growth, but some initiates the growth, some inhibits the growth. So some are promoter and some are inhibitor. So first, the basic and the most important hormone is the auxin, which helps in the cell division, cell elongation as well as growth. Second, gibberellin, it helps in the growth of stems and branches. Cytokinin, it helps in cell division, formation of fruits and seeds. Now abscisic acid, this is a growth inhibitor. This is the hormone which is responsible for stopping the growth of a plant, otherwise the plant will keep on growing without any hindrance. Now the last one is ethylene. What's the function of ethylene mainly? It is a gas. Rest of them are liquid, but ethylene is a gas. It is responsible for ripening of a fruit. Now how it happens? Let me give you a very simple example which you all have noticed and observed. When you buy guava, now there is green guava which is raw, and the another guava which is yellowish in color. So if you see, if you even have one yellow guava and you put that guava in between green guavas, the very next day all green guavas, they will get converted into yellow one. Why? Because the ripened fruit, it secretes ethylene gas, which is responsible for ripening of the another fruits. Now the movement in plants. How there is a movement? That doesn't mean that the plant is going to walk or it is going to leave its location. The movement, how they do the work. Two types of movement. The first movement is tropic movement. Now tropic movement are the directional movement which is towards or away to the stimulus, and it depends on the growth. So 2 points which needs to be remembered. First, it is directional. Second, it is growth dependent. That means response is growth. First is photo. Photo, I think so everyone knows, that is light. So that means the response of a plant is towards the light. So if I'll say the stem, it will towards the light, and root, it will be away from the light. So positive phototropism will be shown by stem and negative phototropism will be shown by roots. Now when it comes to geotropism, geo means gravity, earth. So here the positive tropism, that is growth towards the stimulus. Here stimulus is gravity. So roots will be showing the positive geotropism, that is towards the gravity. Roots will go down, and stem will show the negative phototropism. Chemotropism, it is a chemical response. Growth of pollen tube towards the ovule. That means the chemical is inside the ovule and an ovary, and the tube will go towards it. Hydrotropism. Hydrotropism, hydro means water. That means the growth will be towards the water. For example, the growth of roots is towards the water. That is the positive response, positive hydrotropism, and stem will show the negative hydrotropism. You can see in this image, first is the phototropism image, the unidirectional light phototropism. You'll see the direction of a plant, it is towards the light. Second is geotropism, the root, definitely it is going downwards. Chemotropism, I have told you in the plant that a pollen tube, it is going towards the ovules. Next is nastic movement. Two types of a movement we are talking about. Tropism we are done. Now we are on the nastic movement. Now nastic movements, these are the non-directional movements which are either towards or away from the stimulus, and it does not depend on growth. So what's the basic difference? Tropic movement was a directional, whereas nastic is non-directional. Tropic is growth dependent, whereas nastic is growth independent. The example, the very basic example is a mimosa plant. The another name is touch me not, and in Hindi we will say chui mui. Now if we touch the leaf of a plant, you'll see that it folds. It droops down immediately. Due to the change in level of water, it gets back in the water. The amount of the water, it leaves the surface, and that's why it swells or it shrinks. When we touch it, the water of the leaves, it goes back by the process of osmosis, due to which it shrinks. But when we leave it and the plant will realize now it is safe, so the water, it will come back again by the process of osmosis, and it swells. The last topic, that is endocrine glands in human beings. Two types of a system, nervous system. The second one was endocrine system, which is the hormonal system. Now the endocrine glands also help in control and coordination. It produces chemical substances which help to control and coordinate various activities in our body. Now let's study about various types of endocrine glands which are present, that is pineal, hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, adrenal, pancreas, testes, and ovary. In the NCERT, mainly 6 hormones were discussed. The first one will say that it is an adrenal gland. Adrenal hormone, we call it as 3F, flight and fright hormone. Now it is present at the top of the kidney, and it is responsible for, excit action. it produces when there is any case of emergency, our body is frightened or we are angry. So there is a hormone which is secreted by adrenal gland which sends a signal through the blood to the heart, rib muscles and diaphragm, which increases the breathing rate and which leads to the supply of more oxygen as it is required as we need energy. The second one is a thyroid hormone which is present at the neck. It is responsible for producing the thyroxine hormone, which is responsible for the metabolism of fat, proteins and carbohydrates. The third one is pituitary gland, that is responsible for the growth hormone, most important hormone as it is present in a brain. Deficiency of this hormone will lead to dwarfism, that is shortness, and excess of this hormone causes growth. The fourth one is the pancreas. It produces a hormone called insulin which decreases the blood sugar level. A diabetic patient will get the insulin injection. That means if the insulin is not secreted in a sufficient amount in our body by the pancreas, so we'll get the diabetes. The fifth one and the sixth one, they are those sex organs, sex glands which are present in male and female. Rest of the four which we have studied, they are present in both the male and female, but the fifth one, tested, is present in only male, which is responsible for producing a hormone called testosterone, which is responsible for the production of sperms and changes during puberty. What are those changes during puberty? That is the widening of shoulder, building up of muscles, voice become hoarse, increase in height, and various other changes. The ovaries in female, the ovaries which are present in a female, it is responsible for secreting a hormone called testosterone, which controls the production of egg and changes during puberty. That is, the voice become pitchier, development of breast, the accumulation of fat in the lower body, and growth of hair, etc. Now, how to remember this? First of all, learn the position. Start from the brain. There is hypothalamus, pineal and pituitary. So pituitary is present at the brain. Below it, thyroid gland which is present at the neck. Then adrenal gland, if you see, it is present just above the kidney. In between there is pancreas, then ovaries and testes. Now, the best way to remember is by making a table, just like I have shown. First write the endocrine gland, then the location, then the hormones produced, and at last function. In this way you are going to remember. First you will remember the position from head to toe. We have to start from the head and go to the toe. So top of it there is pituitary gland and it is called as master gland. Why? Because it is present at the brain and it is responsible for secreting growth hormone, due to which growth takes place in our body. Second is thyroid gland, which is present at the neck, which is responsible for secreting thyroxine. The function of it, that means the production of thyroxine, and iodine, it is required for the thyroid gland to produce this hormone. That's why it is always suggested to consume vacuum evaporated iodized salt. Adrenal gland above kidneys. Adrenal prepares the body for the emergency situation. Pancreas, location, it was near the stomach. Insulin is secreted and it controls the diabetes. Testes, I told you it is present in male. Location, mainly in a scrotum. Hormone which it produces testosterone, which is responsible for sperm production and development of secondary sexual characters. Ovary, present in female. Location, near uterus. Estrogen is a hormone which is produced by it and which is responsible for the production of eggs and rest of the secondary sexual changes which are taking place. So now let's summarize in a very short what we have studied in control and coordination. That we have in control and coordination, we have studied two systems. One is nervous system, second is endocrine system. The nervous system, it comprises of reflex action, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Whereas your endocrine system, these all are the hormonal system. And when we studied about plants, there are two systems. One it is a plant, which are the movements. One is a tropic movement. Another one is anastic movement. Tropic movement is growth dependent and directional, whereas anastic movement, it is not growth dependent and non-directional. When it comes to hormones, two types of hormones are there in plant. One is growth promoting, second one is growth inhibitor. So I hope you all understand a very small view of control and coordination. Thank you.